As Afro-descended people, we're constantly saturated with negative portrayals of us. Popular culture and the education system can definitely be considered the primary culprits. Despite these messages being sent to us, whether it's in reference to beauty standards, intelligence, or overall value, there tends to be a dominant overarching theme that Black people contributed nothing to human civilization. Even though this is an obvious lie, individuals in the African diaspora have internalized this adulterated idea. Since I focus on African history for this Black History Month, we're going to illuminate the darkness and talk about the greatest achievements of ancient Africans. There are many lists out there concerning this topic, but this will be my own personal take on the very best things our ancestors contributed to the world. I'm hoping that by the end of this video, the African diaspora would have approved these tangible achievements and would have validated all our ancient African receipts. What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And today, we're going to talk about the greatest achievements of ancient Africans. And as always, if you want full access to courses, exclusive videos, or if you simply want to support the Home Team, you can do so on patreon.com. Also, go to Afrographics.com, a website where you can find unique illustrative infographics summarizing African history. All the basic information you need is neatly compiled for you there, including sources for all articles posted. It's a really good resource and introduction to African history for beginners. The link to Patreon and Afrographics is in the description box below. One of the very first ancient African achievements on the continent has to be astronomy, an early achievement of actually realizing that we're not the center of the universe, if you will. Ancient Africans were willing to set aside their ego and look at the hard evidence. One of the first potential signs of an astronomical observatory was in ancient Nubia at a place called Nabta Playa. In or around 4800 BC, stone circles were aligned to understand our astronomical place. There are many scholars who actually don't support that this was an actual astronomical observatory, but I thought I'd still add it as it would be good to mention just in case. However, confirmed astronomical knowledge in Africa comes from the Dogon people. The Dogon has some of the most intricate knowledge concerning aspects of the universe. They appeared to know that the rings of Saturn and the moons of Jupiter, and even Sirius B, which is a white dwarf star, a star that of course is invisible to the human eye. The Dogon's astronomical knowledge is such a great achievement for ancient Africans because they observed or inherited this ancient knowledge without modern technology. Who knows, perhaps the Dogon's ancient knowledge is evidence that Nabta Playa indeed has some astronomical relevance. The Dogon system of knowledge reveals precise information on cosmological facts, known only by the development of modern astronomy. This is no doubt an achievement second to none. One of the most valuable achievements in human history is the creation and manipulation of elements. The metallurgic sciences have advanced humanity greatly. It's been used for warfare, agriculture, and the building of nations. The science of metallurgy was a tool of human advancement, and Africans were masters of the science. In West Africa, the mastery and manipulation of iron, brass, and bronze is surprisingly well known, largely due to the masterful art of the Yoruba and Edo peoples. Because of the development of metallurgy in West Africa, the people of Ile-Ife were able to create magnificent pieces of art. Later, the Edo people, borrowing from the Yoruba tradition, mastered bronze, producing sculptures and reliefs in the metal using the lost wax process. In Eastern Africa, in the ancient city of Meroe, the Kushites, around 500 BC, became a major manufacturer and exporter of iron. The Kushites absolutely mastered the art of iron making so well that they became mass producers of it. Also, right in the heart of Africa, in ancient Congo, the Isi-Congo people had an extensive and advanced knowledge of the metallurgic sciences. A French scholar by the name of Georges Ballandier had this to say about the metallurgy in ancient Congo. There is no doubting the existence of an expert metallurgical art in the ancient Congo. Only the competition of objects from abroad and the slow deterioration brought about its decline. A further proof is provided by recent ethnographic documents. The Bakongo were aware of the toxicity of lead vapors. They devised preventative and curative methods, both pharmacological, massive doses of pawpaw and palm oil, and mechanical, exerting of pressure to free the digestive tract for combating lead poisoning. Another great tradition of metallurgy in Africa comes out of Tanzania amongst the Haya people. The Haya people in Tanzania were reportedly forging steel for nearly 2,000 years. One anthropologist was so amazed by this discovery that he asked them how they did this. Accordingly, he was led to a tree which was said to be the spot of the ancestral furnace used to forge steel. Even though the Haya people had not used it for centuries, the elders still knew how to do it. The Haya were forging steel of a grade that did not appear in other parts of the world until centuries later. The invention of the metallurgical sciences in various parts of Africa is an absolutely brilliant contribution to human civilization. The human body is perhaps one of the most complex things in the universe. All humans have attempted to master the design of the body and therefore treat illness through medicinal means. Medicine in Africa is probably the most ancient human accomplishment, and it most certainly originated in Africa. One example of the confidence ancient Africans had in their knowledge of the human body was the practice of cesarean section. European travelers to the Great Lakes region of Africa during the 19th century reported cases of surgery in the kingdom of Bunyoro Kitara in western Uganda. One observer expressed seeing a surgical skill which had reached a high standard. Cesarean sections were performed on a regular basis with the use of antiseptics and anesthetics. The expectant mother was normally anesthetized with banana wine, and herbal mixtures were used to encourage healing. From the well-developed nature of the procedures employed, European observers concluded that they had been employed for some time. The practice of cesarean section was practiced in ancient Africa, and European visitors were simply introduced to it upon their arrival. Various other ailments and illnesses were treated in ancient Africa. Interestingly enough, the knowledge of inoculating oneself against smallpox seems to have been known amongst the Akan. A slave named Wanzimus explained the inoculation procedure to Cotton Mather during the 18th century. He reported to have gotten the knowledge from Africa. This not only provides insight into the developed medicinal knowledge of ancient Africa, but it proves that well-educated Africans were unfortunately enslaved, debunking a lot of stereotypes. The architectural wonders of ancient Egypt is well known and frequently discussed. However, the rest of Africa remains under the banner of the Dark Continent trope. Ancient Africans built in mud and stone. This architectural form was later used in the development and construction of medieval sites, like the stone structures of Great Zimbabwe, the grand castles of Ethiopia, and the palaces of the Swahili coast. The ancient stone structures at Dartichet prove the advanced stone building prowess of ancient Africa. Dartichet is composed of more than 400 stone masonry settlements with clear street layouts. Some settlements had massive surrounding walls, while others were less fortified. Also, the ancient Nubian temples and pyramids are often neglected. There are over 200 pyramids in Nubia, brilliantly designed and well ordered. The architectural skills of ancient Africans are there in plain sight for the world to see, but oftentimes we simply forget to look. One of the major signs of a well-developed civilization according to Western ideology is writing. Parts of medieval Africa did write things down, but for the most part, most of ancient Africa relied on oral tradition, and this is why popular culture devalues their civilization. But there were some ancient Africans who did write things down. These Africans were mostly in the Nile Valley region. In fact, they were one of the first humans to write things down. When we think of the Nile Valley writing, we tend to think of the Egyptians exclusively and their hieroglyphics. But the Nubians also invented their own script called Meroitic. Despite this, at one time the Nubians and the Egyptians shared a writing form. How do we know this? Well, according to an ancient Greek perspective, it was actually the Nubians who invented writing and the Egyptians simply borrowed it. Now, this perspective is shocking to us because it's the total opposite of our modern day perspective. According to Diodorus Siculus, a Greek historian who claimed to have sat at the feet of Egyptian priests, he advances the following ancient perspective. We must now speak about the Ethiopian writing, which is called hieroglyphic among the Egyptians. Now, for Diodorus, that statement is common knowledge, but for us, this is mind-blowing. And as you can see, he says it pretty casually. Also, when Diodorus says Ethiopian, he's not talking about modern-day Ethiopia. He's talking about ancient Nubia. He goes on to say, and the larger part of the customs of the Egyptians are they hold Ethiopian. For instance, the belief that their kings are gods, the very special attention which they pay to their burials, and many other matters of a similar nature are Ethiopian practices, while the shapes of their statues and the forms of their letters are Ethiopian. For of the two kinds of writing which the Egyptians have, that which is known as popular is learned by everyone, while that which is called sacred is understood only by the priests of the Egyptians, who learn it from their fathers as one of the things which are not divulged. But among the Ethiopians, everyone uses these forms of letters. So according to Diodorus, the invention of writing by the Nubians was apparently common knowledge. The idea of Africans writing before the overwhelming majority of the planet is no doubt one of the greatest achievements of ancient Africa. And last but not least, we have the spirit of exploration. It's largely believed that Africans were the first humans, and without their spirit of exploration, the planet would not have been populated. All of humanity is in debt to the pioneering force of ancient Africans. They were the spark to the many flames we see today in our civilized world. They had the audacity to move from their comfort zone into a totally unknown and possibly hostile territory, bringing with them knowledge, agriculture, and most of all, the building blocks of civilization. Well, I'm all out, guys. Let's remember that these achievements aren't just something that happened in the past. We, as Afro-descended people, have this majestic inheritance pulsing through our veins. Its value is readily available for us to build our future. We've done it in the past, and now we know we're able to do it in the future. Our community is its own asset. Let's continue to invest in it. If you like these videos and want more, you can support Home Team on patreon.com. And also, don't forget to go to Afrographics.com to see illustrative infographics on African history. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.